For the sake of time, we are going to get started. Thank you for joining us for Speaking in Color Saturdays, also known as Sick Saturdays. These sessions are based upon the book that my daughter and I wrote called Speaking in Colors. We found out that people are having a breakdown communication due to several factors. Number one, born with. How you were born and how you were raised have a lot to do with your ability or inability to effectively communicate with someone that's different than you. Number two, nature versus nurture. Nature versus nurture have a lot to do with what does your nature say about you? As you are growing up, you have some innate abilities about who you are. And how you were nurtured, your upbringing, and how your parents raised you have a lot to do with your ability or inability to effectively communicate. And then there's born with. Born with has a lot to do, sorry, I got distracted. Then the third one is transmitting. Transmitting has a lot to do with how you're transmitting information as you are interacting one to another. When you're born, your nature versus nurture have a lot to do with how you're speaking to someone else and whether the information that's being transmitted is being effective in how you connect with others or ineffective. It has a lot to do with who you are. Then the fourth is color correcting. There are always ways to improve your forms of communication. Even though you can have an effective way of communicating with others, there's always room to improve. So never think that you do not need to improve who you are. So we're going to talk about, are you taking care of yourself? One thing I really started noticing was that there was a lot of breakdown in how people are showing up lately. If you notice, there are so many different things that's happening in the world today. For example, I'm not going to use names of people, but I'm just going to talk about the situations and circumstances, like hosts being slapped by an audience participant, laws being passed to eradicate race being discussed in schools, but yet and still American history can still be discussed. So that's going to be very really thin line of how you can not talk about race, but you can talk about American history. Then people are getting shot, the mentally disturbed and unarmed citizens. These are some things that's causing people to melt down. Spouses being stalked, people having mental issues. With the world gradually opening up, these matters are going to greatly impact our lives in several ways, because now a law is pending that COVID would no longer be funded, which is going to greatly impact the future of the healthcare system. A lot of people depended upon the funds for COVID as far as testing, financially, with the stimulus checks or pandemic grants, moratorium for rent or mortgage or things like that. With the COVID funding being on the table to either pass or not, is going to greatly impact the future. And then we're no longer caring for each other the way we used to. And that's having a lot to do with our mental, physical, spiritual, and financial aspects. So let's talk about, how are you taking care of yourself? And you can talk about whether it's your body, your hair, your skin, physically, spiritually. We're going to talk about all of those things. And I'm going to start off. For me, I'm really gradually trying to really go in a way that I'm giving myself space to breathe and exhale. I'm really focusing on making sure that I am present with things that I should be present for, and letting go of things that no longer serve me. I can get overwhelmed And so I said to myself lately, I'm going to spend every day at least 30 minutes of silence, doing nothing, just sitting in silence, whether it's in my backyard, in my room, or what have you, and just tap into nothing. Even though I meditate every day, even though I do breathing exercises every day, it's still doing something. And so I'm deciding to just do nothing. I started it a couple of days ago, and it's really helping me a lot to unpack me, to give me that downtime, and to really help me to unwind. Also, I'm making sure I'm taking my baths more often, making sure I go on walks more often, and not so much walking for speed or exercise, but just to get into nature. I am really learning to tap into nature a lot more since I've been in Georgia than opposed to being from the Bay. And so for me, these are some of the things that's really important to me. And so let's hear from you. What are some things that you're doing to take care of yourself? Anyone?
I'll go ahead and go. So, hey everybody, happy 6 Saturdays. What I'm doing right now is just making sure that I just have a healthy level of detachment. Before the so-called the person that you're talking about slapped the other person, I knew nothing about it. I didn't know nothing about it until people start telling me about it. So, I really just am making sure that I have a healthy level of detachment and just listen to spirit, doing things that I feel that I should be doing. If I don't feel like I should do it, then just simply not doing it. I'm just following what feels good to my spirit to do, whether that's, who to communicate with, what to eat, just in every facet. So basically that's what I'm doing right now, to just make sure that my levels mentally, spiritually, and physically stay elevated.
Okay, okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, this is my first time on Clubhouse, so I hope I'm doing the right thing.
Oh, that's okay.
So yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad about this conversation and taking care of ourselves and what I've been doing. Oh my God, I've been going through a complete metamorphosis and transformation in my own life.
Uh-huh.
I liked what I heard you say, Ms. Vernita, about just nature. And I've been to your crib, and whenever you do something, I would love to be a part of that. I mean, that's healing in itself. Okay, your backyard.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just on this journey of reclaiming my joy, reclaiming what fun looks like in my life. Shutting like all of the gloom and doom. I'm looking at moving on from my job, looking into something fun and fulfilling in business. And just, going back to that place for self-care and self-nurturing. I got a revelation on the whole relationship tip. I'm good right where I am. I'm good as a single woman that knows the Lord, that has an entrepreneur spirit, that's connecting with other beautiful queens and kings, such as yourself on here. And that's really what I'm all about. Like all of the other stuff, I've just kind of disconnected myself. It's been a time for me just to refocus, with the Lord by myself. I didn't say church stuff, but just a spiritual connection with God, just journaling.
Right.
I had an opportunity to go up to the beach last week and just, reflect and just going back to what he's called us to. And so I'm loving this conversation and loving that the fact that I could be here. So I'm gonna go on and figure out how I log out of this now. So anyway, thanks.
Yes, yes. And we're so happy that you can join us and be a part of the conversation, because we are really trying to tap into this a lot more and to really fully understand, what's going on in our lives. And it's really something that there are so many different things that's happening right now that is really showing up in our lives in so many ways. And it's also showing up in the lives of others, where celebrities, their lives are made public and everything that they do is shows. And it's really something that I am really interested in people just tapping into more of who they are, tapping into more of what's important to them, and less on what celebrities are doing. Because at the end of the day, they're there to entertain. They are people, they're there to entertain. But the thing is, we have to do what's best for us. And unpacking, unwinding is so crucial in today's society. We have to really look at how technologies is influencing and affecting us. The NFTs, the metaverse, and different things that's happening, AI, that's becoming real. And we have to really be mindful how we are going to show up, how we're going to move forward. So how you are taking care of yourself is essential. How you taking care of yourself is crucial, because just like the body, if you do not take care of your body effectively, then you are going to have a problem. And that problem is going to affect you for the rest of your life. So taking the time now, before you're sick, before you're ill, before there's anything that can adversely impact you in a negative way, it's time to take care of your body. And that goes to what you listen to, what you hear, what you say, the rest you get, what you put on your skin, because your skin, your body is an organ, it's a big organ. So you want to make sure that everything that you're doing is healthy for the body. You want to make sure that you're mindful of getting rid of the toxins for the body. Taking those baths of Epsom salt or mineral water or things like that, turmeric, to help your body is so essential. You want to make sure that you're being in tune to natural things that you're putting on your body. Because once again, it's an organ, and what you put on your body is going to go into your system. And if you're not careful, that's going to impact you. In addition to what you're seeing, like, the sisters were saying, what they're looking at, what they're not looking at, it has a lot to do with the impact of the body. What your eye gaze is seeing can cause you stress, can cause you happiness, can cause you peace. It depends upon all of what you are intaking. The same as what you're hearing, what you're entertaining. When you're talking to someone on the phone, or you listening to the radio, or you listening to something on TV, or what you listen to before you go to bed, is going to impact you in such a way that can either be positive or negative. Also, it's important to also be mindful of what you say, because if you're not mindful of what you say, that's going to greatly impact your future life as well. So we have to be really mindful of all these different things that is impacting the body, because the body, we only have one, and the body can make or break your future. So we have to be mindful. What does that say? What does that mean? And moving forward. Also, too, we got to be mindful of how we take care of our hair. That has a lot to do with the essence of who you are. Once again, anything that you put on your hair, on your skin, on your whatever, is going to impact the body. is going to impact you. So making sure you're taking care of yourself in all aspects, making sure you're taking care of yourself in the most healthiest of ways is very, very essential. So you want to be mindful how you are taking care of your body. Does anyone have anything to say before I move on?
I wanted to briefly speak on, like you were saying, what you say. And so a lot of times people don't understand how powerful they really actually are, and the currency that you have in your body to manifest your actual reality. So a lot of things that we say and do is based off of the things that we have learned in the past or that we are around, but it really cultivates, who we are and how the life that we live. So if you look at, the person that you are and kind of who you're surrounded with, the things that you say on a regular basis, it's like a direct relation to what you say, what you believe, what you encourage, your self-talk, different things like that. So it's really just to get in the mindset that you want to be. And a lot of times having to be in that mindset before the manifestation comes. So it's like in the way of saying, oh, I want to be a millionaire. There's nothing wrong with that, but you must start acting as you are a millionaire prior to you being able to manifest that. So, when you're speaking and making sure that, you are just talking in general or, on a regular basis, it's really important to make sure that even if it's small conversations, even if it's just self-talk with yourself, that you take a real stock of what you're saying and how you're saying things, because we really are creating who we are on an everyday basis. What you do right now and what you say is a representation of where you will be within the next quarter.
And
I'm sorry. I use Clubhouse Etiquette. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. And that's important once again, because that's going to affect your whole being and moving forward. And so we have to be mindful of our mental abilities and agility and moving forward, because as Nikita was saying, what you're speaking is going to impact your future, which is going to impact your relationships, your conversations, and different things of that nature. So you want to be really, truly mindful of how you interact with others. Also, too, making sure you find ways to unwind and de-stress. It may be exercise, but one thing you want to do, like I mentioned earlier for myself, is just find a time of quiet. Just find a time of doing nothing, because what you are doing for yourself by not doing anything is a way of taking care of yourself as well, because there's so much chatter, there's so much noise, there's so much going on that we need to find a way to really de-stress and unwind. And you want to find ways to do that in a way that's going to help your body in so many ways. Because taking care of yourself, once again, you only have one body. It's so important how that shows up, because you have a lot of people in their 40s and 50s and 60s that are broken down because they did not take care of themselves when they were younger. And then as they gradually go in age, then they have not found the right tools or the right ways in which to take care of themselves, or dealing with stress, or dealing with any other type of issues that comes into life, that their body breaks down. So you want to make sure that you're finding ways to take care of yourself, as far as your body, what goes in your ear gates, your eye gates, what you speak, what goes on your hair, your skin, and what you do physically. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything about that, how they take care of themselves? Okay, so You want to just make sure also too that what you do for yourself spiritually, as Michelle has said earlier, your spiritual being is very important. Taking that time for your spiritual being is crucial. People have different ways of dealing with spirituality. Whatever your way is, that's fine. But finding a way to spiritually tap in and tune in is key. You do not always have all the answers on how to deal with every situation or most situations. But by being tapped into a higher being or God, it allows you the ability to trust in more than yourself and be guided in how to handle things. Like we talked about at the top of the hour, if you're dealing with something and you feel someone has embarrassed you or someone has done something that is disrespectful, is that a way to go and slap someone? Because that's the way you handle things. Okay. Do you feel that there's other ways of handling things if you weren't so stressed out? Because one thing I'm noticing for myself, once I have tapped into that 30 minutes of quiet, how I handle things is a lot different now than how I handled things in the past. And so I'm noticing by giving myself that chance to breathe and exhale causes me the ability to not react and respond in such a negative way, not to react and respond in a way that is out of my character, because I took the time to just relax and had quiet and did nothing.
Let me just jump in there and speak to that as well. Like you said, we're not going to drop no names. However, it's important to know the tools that you have, right? So just say, for instance, that's one way to say, oh, that was out of my character. No, it wasn't. It was in there for you to do. That's what you do. That's how you handle things. However, because the things, your anger has been misplaced, your frustration has been misplaced, you're not dealing with the real stuff at hand. You have way bigger fish to fry. You end up lashing out on the person that is the least responsive and most oftentimes the most sensitive person in the matter. So in that situation, he wouldn't have, or the person wouldn't have necessarily done that to someone else who was able to meet him with the same type of energy.
Right.
You
right.
did that to someone that was, you know, in his stories, in his show, he says all the time, he got beat up and picked on all the time.
Right.
So you don't get any points or any credit for doing him like that, but how you acted in that situation based off of what happened. Number one, that's who you are behind closed doors. So let's not say, oh, you know, people are acting out. When you do something to someone, oh, I act out of character. That's because you acted out of the avatar that you show everybody else on a regular basis. So everybody else sees this together, ordered person, this person that does no wrong. And when someone sees another version of who that person is, oh, they acted out of character. That is the polar opposite of what they show you on a regular basis. So that is really you. That is the person. Just unfortunately, he was not able to disperse his anger where it really went. So it ended up lashing out in front of everyone. And to be perfectly honest, especially when you're always looked at as squeaky clean like that, you kind of want to put a stain on your record. You know, you kind of want to show people I'm not always this, you know, neatly pressed person that you guys all also see, always see. I have a little grit to me also.
Why would a person do that?
I'm so, say it again, I'm sorry.
Why would a person do that?
Because you always have this, it's like you build this character and everybody feels that you're perfect or whatever you portray yourself to be. And so you have to live by that. It's like you're almost in prison. So if you're this holy person, you walk around, you treat everybody how they should be treated. You're always so diplomatic and everything. If someone were to see you in the street cursing somebody out, it'd be like, oh my God, you're almost a prisoner to this character or this avatar that you've created. And I think that's what a lot of celebrities are, because there's this spin or this narrative of who they're supposed to be. And so when they go against that spin or that narrative, then it's like, whoa, this person is going on, the left field. They're crazy. Or, that's out of character for this person. When no, they're a regular person just as we are. We just have the ability not to be under, so strenuous surveillance at all times.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's part of how we're taking care of ourselves. Because one thing that really came to mind, just like a person, he was stalking his ex-wife, and he was just having this mental breakdown of stalking his ex-wife. Then he was going after her new boyfriend, and now he's decided that he really needs some help, because he went after a comedian. And now he's like, I really need to go get some help because I am really melting. And how you're taking care of yourself has a lot to do with those stressors. And the thing is, sometimes you have those stressors and there's no one to tell you, hey, why don't you go and get you some help? Why don't you go and do this? Instead, what happens is you have to almost melt down in front of the world and get embarrassed and realize, if a lot of people are saying the same thing about you, that there's something gravely wrong. And so now this person is going to get some help, allegedly. And it's really something that it took this long for him to realize that he needed some help. But the thing is, like going back to the person who slapped the person, a lot of times that can be for a cry of help. I need to get some help. I need someone to help me. I need someone to be there for me. I need someone to know I have a problem. And like you said, with the squeaky clean persona, maybe he's realizing that there's something greater and bigger that's happening in his life than he realizes or care to admit, that caused him to do this. So how are you taking care of yourself is so key, because when those situations come, and they will come, it teaches you and it shows you how you're going to show up and how you're going to react. Because I'm wondering, if these people in these examples were not celebrities, how would they have shown up in these situations?
I think this happens in everyday life, if not worse. But the biggest thing is to make sure a part of you taking care of yourself is, like you said, giving yourself time. But considering that these people are celebrities, they never have no private personal time unless they're in their homes 24/7, and not even in their home, like don't go to the window type situation, depending on how big they are. You're a prisoner in your own home in that way. But also a part of self-care is making sure of the people that you have around you.
Right.
Because
right.
if the person
Right.
who slapped the person as the person who was there for you, and you're supposed to be, I guess, quote unquote, protecting my honor. When I see you going up there, I'm gonna grab your arm and be like, nah, that's not what we do.
Right.
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 Let's talk about it. Or, oh, I wasn't tripping that serious. You don't have to do that for me, or whatever the case.
Right.
But it was almost awarded or, praised that he did this, acted out of character and did this. And then if you were to think about it, if that was someone else, they would have been immediately escorted, like immediately.
Right.
You shouldn't have been able to receive an award. You shouldn't have been able to do anything once you violated someone's space in that way, and then, oh, now you getting help. To me, you going to get help is not enough. Like, you should have learned, you should have at this point had enough, especially with the place that you and your family is in on a regular basis. The stuff that person has gone through, you should have been already enrolled in counseling. Him saying what he said about your wife or whatever the case should not have been the catalyst to prompt you into counseling. But because you have a lot of yes people around you, and yes, and whatever you do is perfect, and yes, and you floating on cloud nine, and no one is willing to tell you about yourself because really you have a narcissistic personality. Now, it's a little slap on the wrist, it's a small infraction because now I'm going to counseling. So to me, that's not enough. But I said all that to say that it's very important who you have around you, who your tribe is. It's different from people who just take up space and somebody who's really going to check you and talk to you when you step out of line, especially in that way. If you had more people around you to do that, then I think that situation wouldn't even happen. But the way in which you live your life, your family, everybody's just liberal. There's no rules, there's no boundaries. Everybody just do what they want to do. And that's basically to the detriment of the lives that you guys have cultivated because you're acting out in this way.
Right. And then these are two separate situations. So one is the wife, the person stalking their wife and speaking out against other people and going after the wife's boyfriend. And then the other one is the host, slapping. So the one with the guy stalking the wife, that person's going to counseling. I don't know anything about the host who slapped the person. Are they going to counseling? But my question now is, what would you have done if you kind of answered it? Nikita kind of answered, but anybody else, what would you have done if that was you? The first one, if someone was talking about your husband, mocking your husband, and you don't have to be a celebrity, just everyday person, mocking your husband, and you have had a stressful week, month, what have you, what would have been an ideal way of dealing with that? Anybody?
Well, hello, everyone. Good evening. My apologies for the tardiness.
Okay.
Speaking of taking care of yourself, I literally had a personal day today because I had a headache all day long.
Okay.
So part of my self-care has just been resting. But I would like to think, because there's no judgment, because I feel, going back to the examples, that this wasn't the first, the second, the third, or the seventh time that the temptation to put hands on somebody had come up.
Right.
It just was like, you know what? Today is going to be the day that I snap. Today is going to be the day that I snap. And so I feel like I don't have any judgment for Will because I'm not him. I don't know the pressure he's been on. I don't know for the one time that we've seen him now go off at the Oscars for the 50 to 75 other times that we've not heard anything about it. In terms of, you know what I'm saying? It's
right.
I lashed out on national television, worst possible timing, one time. But what about all the other times that I did nothing, that I said nothing, that I came to the red table talk to air out things amicably, to discuss rationally, to maintain professionalism throughout all the memes, throughout all the humiliation, throughout all of that. So
right.
I can understand that. So I'm just saying, I would like to think that okay, not no go in this situation and just knowing who I am, but not understanding what amount of pressure that might be. I would like to think that, like Nikita said, my squad would hold me down, like literally. I would have someone, I would have one of y'all grabbing me by the wrist, someone patting me and rubbing me on the back, someone whispering in my ear, okay, to help me to get a split second of the long game.
Yes.
So I would think that I would walk up to the stage having a pretty good understanding that I was going to win that night, and use that time in between that moment and my award to concoct some sort of words that would clap back. There was public joke, mockery, and embarrassment. So now there needs to be public accountability and criticism, you know, just from an even standpoint, if there was anything to be done at all.
Right.
And maybe it could have been handled backstage. But I also feel like, no, you did that in public, and that was a bit inappropriate. So let me take this moment now to say, hey, I know we're all here to have a good time, and you know, comedians and actors, we do our job to entertain people. However, there are some things that are not funny. There are some things, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been what I would think I would have done.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It was just burning me though, because
okay.
Now that you done said it, and it cat out the bag, now we cannot use this person and that person because we know who we're talking about. They act like they don't put their business out in the street. It could have been a way worse joke than that. And why are you acting like your wife is above heckling? The joke he gave her was like a PG-13 joke. He could have been like, oh, you got this mad in March. How mad you gonna get in August? Like, you know what I'm saying? He could have came for her. Like, that was not a come for her. So just because she had a moment of discomfort and a moment of like, I know you're not talking about me. Why are y'all so above being talked? Like, I mean, and that was such a small, and that's why I said that I know it wasn't about that. Because that joke was so small, and for you to put your hands on somebody, and and Portia, I'm gonna go to the episode that you just dropped on what to do when you are under personal attack. You could have just left that be. You could have just walked away. That wasn't even nothing that was spicy for real, for him to be like, for even those actions, and even him cursing out in public like that to be warranted. It was just ridiculous. And then I heard that he high-fived her. I mean, not high-five, but he head-butted her, or they did some type of something, I guess, to like, okay, babe, you know, good job, well done type situation. You don't praise your husband for doing things like that. And especially when we just got into the Oscars for real. This is a Black producer that produced the Oscar this year, Questlove. You know, it's just, we'll just to go back on the topic.
I think Wanda did. I think Wanda, S.I.C or somebody. Yeah, but anyway, it was a person of color. Yeah.
It just wasn't the way.
Yeah.
And I just can't stand how they act like they're above heckling. And since we name dropping already, I love Kanye, and they should have basically helped him with self-care prior to this point. She just understood the assignment, and she stayed with him till she had them babies and locked it in. And then now it's like, oh, crazy Kanye. No, he was crazy when you had first got with him. I wouldn't even say crazy, but he was suffering from some mental illness and some difficulties before you got with him. And now that it's, you know, you've done your time, you don't put your 5 in. Now it's crazy Kanye.
Actually, Kanye, I'm glad you brought him up, because I literally had the same thought when you talked about your squad. See, that is very important, because I think it becomes difficult in some situations to take care of yourself when you're surrounded by toxic people, and like they enable you to maintain whatever toxicity you have. And I thought about, because Kanye had that moment on stage years ago, but it was with Taylor Swift and Beyonce. He didn't slap anybody, but it was just as disruptive. And that was just one of the things that he did on national television. But what he had prior to those moments was his mother, Donda. He was not lashing out in public because he was the same part of his life. She was the same part of his life that kept things in balance and check. No, you're not going to just do whatever you want and act a fool and embarrass the family out here in these streets. You got to think about everything from every angle before you just react. She really held him in a certain space that kept him functional,
right,
and him taking care of things the right way. And I really think that that's, some people really need that.
right.
I think that speaks to a lot of people. You know, when you don't have the right folks surrounding you, it's very difficult to maintain self-care. They may not be telling you to slap other people, but they might be telling you to give all of yourself and sacrifice everything for their benefit. That's still unhealthy, whether you know, fighting in the streets or not.
Right.
If you are losing yourself for the benefit of someone else, as we saw with this whole television situation, it really amounts to the same thing. So I do think that other people oftentimes can play a big part in our ability to maintain self-care.
Well, I think I was just listening to everything that you guys were saying. There's a lot of pieces to this. And honestly, I didn't know about it either until someone sent something to Facebook. And I'm like, oh, what's this about? And then I found out about it. Yeah, I feel like his wife didn't say anything because I feel like secretively she wanted that to happen. You know, and, you know, I'm not going to get involved because I know for a fact, you know, just thinking about, you asked the question, Sister Vanita, like, if this was something happening to somebody in my family, first of all, I know my daughter would definitely pinch me. Because there's been times when she was, you know, someone going right with some music deal, and I was there on the platform with them, and she was like, "Mama, please." And you know, because Oakland will come out quick. So yeah, I do feel like she kind of wanted that to happen. You know, like, yeah, we're gonna take care of this. But at the same time, I do feel like we need to watch what we say, because you know, we don't know where people are, what they're going through. You know, I had no idea that baby girl was going through that. And that's what happened with the whole hair thing or whatever. You know, there's a lot of issues around our hair anyway as Black women. Right. You know, and just, you know, going through that whole healing situation with that illness or whatever. So it could have been a real sensitive new spot, because I looked at her face, because at first, when I saw the clip, I thought it was a joke. Like, it was like a part of the act, until I looked at her face and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's hurting behind this. What happened? And then that's when I found out later about it. Yes, it was her though. What was wrong with her? So she had, what is it, alopecia?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
Don't say. I'm just saying, like, if you get too stressed out, girl, you get alopecia. Like, some people walk around, you know, it's like, it's just this thing again to where she's elevated. You're not going
I get it. I understand what you're saying, but you know, everybody handles things differently. And I guess I'm coming from a place because I have worked with people as a therapist, and people deal with trauma and different things differently. Here you are, you know, a celebrity or whatever the case may be, and this whole thing that happened to them, I feel is going to take them through another self-reflection process, hopefully, and they get deep, because the whole family got issues. I'm even looking at the children need to be right there with family counseling with them. You know, so it's a family affair for real. And for you to walk out on the platform, you know, trauma and embarrassment, if you look at it right, can always bring a change. You know, and for you to walk out on a platform like that and do what you did is just like a cry to the ultimate, because you know now that it's all out in the bag. To me, I feel like this was the bottom. Like working with people in recovery, every addict has their bottom.
Right, and that's why I said that, cry for help, right?
Hopefully this was the bottom for him and for this whole family and this whole situation. I want to bring out as well is that, you know, in this country, we've been blinded by mammon, which is money. So people in higher places can do things, and it's always been a slap on the wrist because they're money. And, you know, we seem to forget these people are actors and actresses. Hello.
Yeah.
That means that they are paid to act out an illusion for you to believe.
Right.
So when they do something off the wall and something crazy like this, it's like it's a shock. Like, I don't know, I think it was someone that said earlier, you know what? This is how it's been for him all along. It's just that they get paid to make you believe a certain thing through scripts and lines, and the mind doesn't know reality from what's not reality. You know, and so that was really a sad situation, but I too would like to think that if somebody was out there blasting someone in my family, be saying, you know what, just let me get somewhere to the side and off to the side with them by myself.
Right.
You know, where there's not a public thing, or God help me right now, help me get myself together for I end up in prison tonight. But you know, to do what he did in that perspective, it was just crazy. I can't even stand looking at it. And then, you know, the other person that suffered this, the fact that he took it the way he did, I mean, these are two. And then, okay, and then my other thing came up. You know, we got all these other races of people watching us. Why do it have to be us cutting up?
Exactly.
Why do it have to be the black man cutting up? We got enough to deal with already. Now there's another stigma on the black man. We just went through this whole piece with Bill Cosby, who was squeaky clean. Now we're looking at Will. It's just always us, black folk, that brings these types of things on ourselves. I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then just to hop on the end of that, when we were speaking about, since our topic is self-care, nobody showed care for Chris Rock. Nobody stopped. Nobody was like, hold on, what's going on? Like, and it was like, you could tell in his face that he was dazed. Like, it was just like, you really hit this man, and nobody, it was just like regularly scheduled programming. No one stopped, no one gave it acknowledgement, because I think initially they probably thought, oh, it was a part of the show. But after he's cussing from his seat up to the front, and you do all that, and you notice that it's not a part of the show, this is not written in here, then somebody needed to stop and tend to him. I really didn't like how they just kind of skimmed over that as if that wasn't a major thing. He shouldn't have to be, you know, repeatedly beat up or, you know, bleeding or anything for someone to really address what just happened to him.
Right.
And then they, like you said, they just went on with as business as usual.
Yeah.
And then he goes up and get this. Yeah, he goes up and get this award, and I was like numb. I you know, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah, it was all bad. It was really, all bad.
Really quick, I just have to point out the element of irony, because I don't know if y'all remember years ago, she was the conspirator behind the hashtag Oscars So White, because he had not been for his role. You know what I'm like? It's really hysterically funny to think. So you boycotted the Oscars, and now that you done got your recognition and you done been accepted at the table, this is what you do when you get there. And now it's like, so maybe we won't have you back after all. Just saying.
Right, because they claim that they asked him to leave when that happened.
He should have been able to even receive his award. You should have had to been escorted right then and there. If that was someone of a lesser stature, or even the music awards. They would have stopped it right then and there. He wouldn't even been able to receive his award. Because to me, that's no punishment. You still came and got what you came here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about, the whole piece with being blindsided by dollars. Because like you said, Nikita, if it would have been any other person, they would have been all over him and escorted out. You know, so yeah, it's really a bad
that's a part of
situation.
self-care is not tolerating certain mess.
Right.
You know,
right.
oh, it's a person, or oh, it's this person, or oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Once you develop the boundaries that you have, so far as what you will accept, what you tolerate, what you don't go for, and what you do go for, it doesn't matter who, you know, breaks those boundaries. They need to be reprimanded immediately. Like, it's ridiculous that this even happened in this way. And that's really a part of self-care, is holding your boundaries.
Right.
If that was anybody else, they would have been rolling around on the floor. I'm glad.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah.
Because then they would have been like, oh, look at these fools. Yeah. Like, they would have loved that. I'm glad they didn't have an actual fight, but it was just like, you know, it was like a boundary that was, you know, literally broken. And it was just kind of like, he was just sitting there like, he just did this. Like, somebody, ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Like, he just, you know, he kept his hands behind his back. And I can give him his accolades for really being an upstanding person in that way and saying, I'm not gonna participate in this with you. But it's just certain boundaries, like you said, Miss Michelle, that we can't cross.
Well, speaking of self-care, you mentioned dollars, Ma, just a second ago, and that made me think, how are we taking care of ourselves when it comes to making a buck? Because we can look at celebrities on a certain scale and say, oh, they got millions and trillions and they'll do anything for the bag. But when it comes to us, I think things happen on both a macro and a micro level, both big and smaller.
Right.
So how much are we running ourselves into the ground or being someplace that affects our mental health negatively for the sake of a check?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You just said something right there.
That's amazing.
That's a real conversation.
Yes.
I know what that is.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that though. I mean, it goes in so many different ways, because people would not take care of themselves. Like, we're going to stay on the topic too. People would not take care of themselves for the sake of a buck. You know, people will do whatever it takes for the sake of a buck, you know, and, you know, like using these situations that we're talking about. And the reason why I didn't want to use their names, because I didn't want to so much focus on them. I wanted to focus on just the premise of self-care as a whole. But while we are using them as an example, it's so important to stay in tune with the self-care of ourselves. For us to be an example. Yeah, we dealing with celebrities, that's a whole different ball game. And there are some celebrities that do stay out of the limelight, that do their self-work to control themselves. But Portia, let's talk more about that. Go on with that one.
I mean, all I can say is that I can identify with actually recently both being in a career that I loved, being in a job that I was very excited about, being, you know, in a financial position that afforded me things that I hadn't experienced before, but also killing myself and my family relationships and my physical health to continue that. And at one point it was like, yeah, I you know, this is great. It's making up for, you know, lost time when I wasn't working. I'm getting a lot of experience. And at the same time, I had to make an executive decision and take everything that I had saved up and was like, you know what? my physical body is breaking down. I have not been able
Mm.
to see and spend time with my family.
Mm.
I am exhausted. And there's so much negativity and toxicity in this work environment. It is affecting me wherever I go. I can't get this feeling out of my psyche. And so I was like, this is not healthy on multiple levels. Like if it affected one thing, I could deal with the others, but it was just seeping into everything. And my life had become unmanageable, which reminds me of the 12-step recovery program, where it was like my house is a mess. I don't know what's going on with my husband.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on with my friends because I ain't seen or talked to them. I have not had the opportunity to even have a moment for myself because the only day I have off, I was working 6 days a week. I literally slept to try to recuperate any type of energy. And so I quit.
Right.
I put in my 2 weeks notice and I left and I said, come heck or high, you know, I just like, God, I have to regenerate myself. Whatever comes next, I'm open for the journey and the adventure, but I've got to balance out. And it hasn't been exactly how I anticipated it, but it certainly is a lot better than what it was before. So I had to make that hard decision. You know, some people, it may not be quitting their jobs. It could be maybe I need to cut back hours, or maybe I need to institute something else in my work week, if that's therapy or something else that helps me balance out my mental health status, just something. I think we all have to look at those situations when they arise. Like, am I taking care of myself, or am I taking care of everybody else, or am I taking care of myself, or am I just so focused on the money that I'm losing what's really important here? So those are just, you know.
Did you almost have to break down to realize that you were chasing the money? Or what was that breaking point?
The breaking point was when, after I thought I wasn't going to get all that I had worked for, and I had nothing to show for it.
Whoa. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was a year in, and part of my goal was to buy a house. And the housing market fiasco since COVID made it virtually impossible. And I was just like, what have I done all of this for?
Oh, wow.
I am about to quit and go on a long vacation and take a flight somewhere and just escape reality, because this is unbelievable. that
okay. That was your breaking point. Wow. Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely. This has been a conversation that I've been having with Portia, because I am on my way out. And like, for real, I've already talked to human resources. Instead of me taking a vacation, I was going to fly back down and hang out with y'all in Atlanta. That clocks back into cash. So therefore, I'm coming up with an exit plan. And you talked about, Portia, physical breakdown, but I'm talking about mental breakdown. I've been doing my line of work for 37 years, as long as Portia been on earth.
Wow.
And social work, dealing with trauma, you know, substance abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking. I worked in the prison, any place where there was broken humanity and suffering. I likened it as a call. And now I'm questioning today, is that a skill set versus a calling? And I'm really re-examining that. And I'm at the place today where I'm tired. So right now, I've worked with infants, and I mean newborns, and I'm leaving out from working with seniors, 65 to 98. And I'm over it. I don't want to be a supervisor anymore. I don't want to hear about anybody's trauma. I don't want to hear about anybody's issues and problems in ministry. It's a wrap. And so really, what you talked about, self-care, you know, I've been having to go back to really pick up my joy, pick up my life, pick up having fun, and embracing being a single professional woman all over again, because I've given away my power in mostly my line of work and in church. but not kingdom. There is a distinction.
Mm.
And so for me, I'm looking at, I have a business that I'm about to take to another level, me and the Holy Spirit. And I'm connecting with those that God is putting in my platform. I'm like starting a whole new world of self-care and financial and business applications as nonprofit and social work. It's a wrap. And now I have a new supervisor that has come in, and she has already planted bad seeds where my staff don't even want to deal with. Many of them are leaving. I mean, that's another
Wow.
piece. Due to COVID, people are just getting up and leaving jobs. And it's like, you know what? Where these people, 1 million people that left?
I know. And counting, and counting.
I got to go. And so I've been wrestling with it and going back and forth. My process and moving to Georgia is slightly on hold, doing to court proceedings and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I have been looking into, some other possibilities. And I feel like I'm at the crossroad of a Red Sea. Like it's time to step in it. There is no other level for me until I do what I know I need to do and trust God and step into it. So for me, and they did add some more money, but it's not worth me supervising 5 social workers, 2 nurses, dealing with all of the crumbling in of the program that's happening with all of the people that has been leaving. We've been, home from COVID for 2 years. So there's 2 years worth of backup. And I kid you not, from October up until March, we had 5 positions open. My boss left, a social worker left, my administrator left.
Whoa.
And then my boss's boss went on baby bonding leave for a month. And they left all that on my neck.
Baby bonding.
And my team. And finally, the executive director stepped in from my department and kind of took over, and she just left.
Whoa.
And now it's like we got this new person in. I won't call her a devil. I won't do that. But we have this new person in, and I didn't make restitution with that situation, but it was really all bad in how she did something and just set a bad seed in our department where my staff don't even want to really work with her.
Wow.
And of course, she's a Black woman, which makes it even worse. But anywho, back to self-care. This is my self-care. And I went into human resources, and I'm like, I'm taking every piece of bank that I got sitting up here with y'all, and I'm working on what's going to work for me. So hopefully by May, I'm out. But I'm not doing this anymore. I've given all that I can give, and I'm tired. I want to have some fun. I want to have some fun in what I'm doing and still be able to have a viable, prosperous income in what God is about to bless me to do in this season, where I can get on a plane and fly to Georgia and come see y'all when I get ready. Right. I can't take my computer and work when I get ready. Right. And I like working from home. I don't want nobody telling me when I got to be here. I'm giving you all my time, 40 to 50 hours a week. And then I don't have any time. When I'm tired, I'm just sitting there like a tiki statue. I'm so tired. I'm over it. So that's self-care for myself. Deuce, I'm about to split. Right. That's where I'm at. Right. And that's why I started this today about self-care, because you see so many people melting down in so many different ways. And it's really evident that something is really going on in more ways than one. And people are having a hard time, like I said, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, in every way. People are having so many different issues, and it's not just the celebrities, it's everybody in so many ways. And now, since they're calling people back to work, that's a stressor for some people. They are cutting out COVID financing, so like
the COVID test kits that they were mailing out to people, the pandemic funding that they were giving to people, that's on the table now with Congress, and is leaning towards they're about to cancel that. And that's going to have an impact on the healthcare, because once you start canceling out things like that, it's going to impact so many different things. And we think this is a meltdown. It's going to be something this time next year. And how you are showing up now is going to be really, really important. And then that's why, like I said, at the top of the hour, how there's a bill that has been passed where they're going to not allow race to be discussed in schools, but American history. So what is that going to do to our kids? That's going to be another issue, because how can you have that fine line to talk about American history, but not talk about race? What? So it's going to be so many things. So I just wanted to just come on and have everybody just to air out their feelings, of how they are taking care of themselves, and having this a place of just safety and space to be able to voice how you're feeling,
And to hop into with what Mama Michelle was saying, and I can definitely resonate with that, being in the beauty care in the beauty care industry, and it is a calling. You know what I'm saying? We are called to do this work, but there's a misconception in that we have to always be the ones. Jesus didn't transform everybody. He worked on the 12. And the objective was for him to get that rooted in the 12 so that they can go out and spread what they needed to spread throughout the world also. So the people that you touch and the people that you assisted and helped, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to diminish what you gave to the service industry. And we really appreciate you and thank you for that. Because
Yes.
there are a lot of people that need that.
Yes.
And need someone with your heart. And so it's not to say, oh, because you've become exhausted, that it's not a calling. It definitely is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the length in which we stayed there and the responsibility, the level of responsibility that we took on, we should have did that to that point. And so that's encouraging to anybody who hears this after. You can have a calling in anything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are to stay in that calling until exhaustion.
Right.
Once you just, yes, once you, and that's in the exhaustion. It's not that you don't love what you do, but when you're that level of tired, I don't care what you got going on. I'm tired, like you said.
Right.
In the beauty industry, oh, you can't fit one more head. I don't care if you give me $1,000. I'm not doing your hair. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
right.
It's just like when you get to exhaustion to where you're doing things grudgingly, and I'm not speaking on you, Miss Michelle, I'm just speaking on me, to where you're doing things grudgingly, you're doing things bitter, you're upset. These are the things that we have and we give to people of ourselves, and we're supposed to give those things to them with light, love, and compassion. But it becomes no longer a gift. It becomes no longer a calling if I am interacting with you and I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, I don't want to be bothered. And it's not your fault that I did not do the work to make sure that I ate properly, that I'm getting enough rest, that I'm scheduled appropriately to make sure that I have time. It's not your fault. You know what I mean? So that's something to tell other people too. You might have something that you love to do, but make sure that you always love to do it. And anytime it becomes a task or a chore, then it's no longer something that you need to be doing. It's something, like Miss Michelle said, it's time to get out. You know what I'm saying? Before it gets to that point.
Right. But the thing is too, even though it's time to get out, even before it gets to that point, that's why I said at the top of the hour, when I find myself feeling like that, that's why I started incorporating that 30 minutes of doing nothing, because that means that you are very exhausted and tired and didn't give yourself what you needed to rejuvenate yourself. And we have to take those moments for ourselves, because we are just as important as the task, the gift, the talents of what we've received as well. So we have to be mindful of that at all times. That 30 minutes, if you can't do 30, do 10 or 15, and you'll be amazed that time to just sit and do nothing and just still your mind, it really, really helps. It does. It does. And that's why I wanted to just have us talk, because I need people to try to tap into that before they get to the point of exhaustion. Because, and Sister Michelle, you probably already know this too, because a lot of times that's when people start committing suicide, because they didn't give themselves time to deal with themselves. And then they get exhausted and they have stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff. Do you find that in your work, Michelle?
Yes, ma'am. And I find it, unfortunately, I was a part of a platform for a little while called mental illness in the church. And I was dealing with leaders and pastors who were committing suicide and dealing with major depressive disorders, and just to be in the circle for people to be getting, current and, talking in these spaces, was a miracle in itself, because, it's hard for people to talk about that stuff, especially in these different types, of leadership roles or whatever. But you're absolutely right, when you said, it's not just so much one area, it is looking at what's going on, in life. I know for me, always being the, the go-to person, people act like if I have a bad day, it's so unnatural just to have a bad day, because I've been in these spaces and wear all these hats. And so I think it is important, to realize when it's time to do things differently. It's not to say that you won't do that particular thing again, but maybe it's time to look at it. First of all, take some time for yourself, practice self-care. And it's something I'm always talking to my staff and others about, self-care. And sometimes you can just get so lost in the shuffle of serving and giving until you look up and you way knee deep in it, not to mention being in a relationship with somebody, on a romantic level or whatever the case may be. So you're giving in that, you're giving in work, you're giving in kingdom. And I think as women, we have to really, really watch that, because before you know it, you are off in a place that it's just like, wow, how in the world did I get here? Because it's just what we do. And one of the conversations that I have even had with Portia is just, the messages, and I'm sure you can speak to this too, ladies, the messages that we have heard over our pulpits. There's not a lot of talk about self-care and taking care of ourselves. It's like now we have to really discern, I don't feel like everything is, some people need to practice self-care where others need to give more to other people. Everybody don't need to go and do something for somebody all the time. I'm in a place where I need to practice self-care and get what I need for myself from giving it out to others. So it's really going through like a deprogramming mentally, of messages, and realizing. So I see someone post something, no, it's not a cuss word. I can tell you no and mean it, and I ain't got to feel guilty about it. I don't have to be at something every time you open the door. I don't have to be running to a church service anymore like that. For what? I have liberty to choose what I'm going to do today. So yeah, there are a lot of people that are going into major depressive disorders, and other things silently, because we suffer in silence. We don't talk about these things because we've been made to believe that, we don't want anybody to know these things are existing. And it's good. I'm glad that we're having this conversation and that you have this platform for us to talk about these things, because we need to hear it more, sis. Self-care and how to really take care of ourselves. Like, what does that look like? It's bigger than getting your nails done and your feet done and going to get a new weave. Come on. It's internal care for yourself. It's dealing with the places that nobody else can see, that's healthy, that reflect the outside of who you really are.
That was everything. I couldn't just press my mute button because I'm still at work, but I shade.
Yes, yes, yes.
Same here.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we're gonna be winding down soon. So is any lasting things that anyone wants to
No.
No, that's the part.
I'm on California time, so I know it's later there, but I get it.
We used to get on Clubhouse and be on here for hours. That's a part of her self-care. She can only do 2 hours.
Girl, yes, 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 yes. That is so true, daughter. So, anybody have anything they want to say?
I guess to the tune of, well, actually, Nikita plug on her podcast episode always, and maybe just some tips before I join. Always brings the solutions. As my mom mentioned earlier, what does self-care actually look like? And so, Mama B, you mentioned 30 minutes or 10 to 15, if you can do that, of just absolute silence and doing nothing. One other thing that I have found very helpful, in addition to having those moments of prayer and meditation to start the day, because it really does lead the day, but if there is a moment where it's like there's a potential breakdown, self-care is needed, stealing away and doing breath work.
Right.
Deep breathing, like from the nose and then exhaling out the mouth, breathing in what it is that you want to call in from God, and then breathing out whatever the anxiety or the stressors are. And then self-care might also be practical application, like, okay, so how am I going to tackle this versus just keeping it in my head, which creates more anxiety and insanity.
Right.
Maybe I need to talk with someone and get some assistance with something. Maybe I just need to create that plan on paper so I can see what to do. Self-care may mean cutting off some toxic people and situations and just not going back. That could be another level of self-care where I'm not picking up the phone to answer that. I'm not scrolling on social media looking for stuff.
Right.
I'm not going back to such and such place anymore. That could also represent self-care. So I just wanted to add that to
right. And that's so key. And the thing is, like you said, Portia, which is key, is the morning and before you go to bed too. What you're taking in has a lot to do with how you sleep and moving forward too. So that is so key. That is so key. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just was thinking about what you said about, changing some of the people and things you do. I got a new phone and I did not have a number like, the new number is, and that was the best thing that I could have did. It's like I got a new phone. I started to delete some old contacts out my phone, and it's been a beautiful picture. So that's right. I'm not about to be no spiritual garbage can to folks. You know what? Get your own program. Get a therapist. Do some yoga. Light a candle. Do whatever you need to do to help yourself. But that was definitely the best decision that I could have made.
Wow. Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. Wow. Anyone else?
And just the last little bit, to reprogram, like Mama Michelle was saying, to reprogram what you have learned. And it's kind of like we feel bad when we don't answer. We feel bad when we tell people no. Why is it that we feel bad when we are exercising self-preservation? So just to relearn that it's okay to do these things and to exercise self-care in these ways. Like, it's okay to do that and try to work on those places that make you feel guilty for standing up for your boundaries, asserting your boundaries, telling other people no, whatever that is. Try to work on, reversing those things and what makes you feel that way, because you were taught to be a giver to a fault.
Right. That is so true. That is so true. Anyone else?
Yeah, Miss Vernita, I'm just waiting for us to have a retreat up at your crib because I definitely get my ticket. I'm coming.
Girl, you are more than welcome. Can't wait till you come. Are you coming on your birthday or when you coming?
Well, I had told Portia that I may not, but I don't know. I'm gonna put that out as a 50-50 possibility.
Okay.
I'm gonna still keep it as 50-50 at this point.
Oh, it's gonna be put out in the universe.
Yes, I thought about it this morning and I'm like, well, maybe let me not just say no. Maybe let me just see what God does. So it's still a possibility that I may come, but I know when I return, it will not be going back to Catholic Charities. That's for sure. Now I do know that.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And we're gonna touch and agree that God's highest and best happens for you, however that is.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, my other daughter. Thank
you. Okay, let me do the quote. Don't sacrifice yourself too much, because if you sacrifice too much, there's nothing else that you can give and nobody would care for you. It's not selfish to love yourself, take care of yourself, and to make your happiness a priority. It's necessary. How we care for ourselves gives our brain messages that shape our self-worth. So we must care for ourselves in every way, every day. Ashe?
Ashe.
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 Okay, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's gonna be on the first Saturday.
The first and fourth.
The fourth Saturday.
Yeah.
The next sixth Saturday, and the fourth and first Saturday of each month.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Don't forget to send me a plug in so I can be on it.
Okay, I will, babe.
Okay, God bless. Have a good one.
Same to you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.